March 1st, 2022. First trade of the day. As you can see, I bought it here and I hit my stop loss here. My typical trade is 50 points on NQ with a 50 point as target and 50 point as loss. The reason for the entry here was here when I saw that it was not pushing through 21 and 8. I entered. This is not my clean setup, hence why we see this resulted in loss, and not just because loss, it was not a clean setup because the reason for that is I ideally wait for a short position only after this 8 EMA crosses the 21 EMA in the CTV indicator. So you can see that later in the rest of the trades that I had today, that worked brilliantly. So this first trade was a loss. Let's move on to the second trade. As you can see here, I had an entry here, another entry here. Let's look at the candles on TradingView, reason for my entry. So you can see I entered here first. This is the first entry in this one. As you can see, it was not pushing through 8 EMA, and 8 EMA has crossed over 21 EMA. So there are multiple times where it flushes from here, like it has done here. But then so there are sometimes it takes time. And as long as you are within here, you are within the 21 EMA, you're good to hold the position. Again, every trade has a 50 point stop loss. So I entered here, and then the moment I saw it hitting 21 EMA and holding it, I took the trade. Again, short went with another short. So this averaged out mine, and then now either I'll lose 200 points if it goes higher, or gain 200 points if it hits my target. So as you can see, eventually it spent some time higher and then hit my target. Okay, so the next setup is again, it's a combination of two setup. So first is the entry here, and then I averaged out here. So let's look at what what was the setup that I took here and why I averaged here. So first setup is, as you can see in the right, this is the one. So we had a good flush. As you can see here, and then we were testing the ATMA again. So when we are testing the ATMA again on normal days, we'll see a continued flush after we touch the ATMA. So we should usually see a continued flush. But today, this was the afternoon hours for the New York. It was in EST it was lunchtime, so it was just hobbling around. And then when it reached this area, there is another setup for me which is called ATR setup. So ATR setup works whenever there is a pull down. It sometimes bounces back all the way to 0 ATR and then flushes again. So that's the concept for ATR setup. The basic I'll explain later in detail. But as you can see, it came down here. It went up here, sorry, and then I averaged at this area. The blue dots are Bollinger Bands, which indicates the standard deviation. And the band that you see here is ATR +1, +2, +3, -1, -2, -3. So the moment I averaged here, I let the stop loss just above +1 ATR because sometimes, as you know, it's all probabilities. So there are, days where after 0 ATR there is no flush and it goes away. So my usual stop loss for this kind of position is just above 1 ATR. So if I take a position here, my stop loss is 5 points or 10 points above the +1 ATR. This gives me enough wiggle room. As you can see here, it almost reached 1 ATR, and there are times when it reaches and touches just 1 ATR and then flushes. So I like to give myself some room. So I pushed it up higher and waited for it. As you can see, as it happened, it just flushed, and this was set up with the strategy that I used was master strategy. So what happens is it closes 50 points on the first one and the 75 points on the second one. So this earned me good amount of money for the day. And the last trade that I took was this. As you can see, it hit my break even. So uh, it hits my break even whenever I take a position, and it moves 25 points in my favor. Since my target is 50 points, if it moves 25 points in my favor, I always take the I always set the break even, so that if it reverses, it takes break even and I don't lose money on that. So as you can see, let's look at why I entered here. So as you can see, there is a good long flush and it pushed above and then hit 80 MA. So I expected a continued flush, but today was not supposed to be. So it grinded here and then hit my break even. Ideally, what I do is, average down once it hits 21 EMA. But then since it moved 25 points and then came back, I just let my break even trigger. Since I already had three great trades, I left it, to open. So I didn't want to lose more money, or don't want to give back all that I made. So as you can see, after this was around 12 o'clock, so we still had about 2 hours of market, but I did not trade further. But you can see on the chart here, it was very volatile later on. Even though the price pushed higher and higher, the CDV was never beyond 21 EMA, and it did not cross over until like in the last minutes of the day. So these are, very volatile period, the last hour, power hour. So I don't generally tend to trade unless I see a very good setup. Since I had a good trade earlier, I did not bother trading in the last hours. Thanks a lot for listening. Hope I'll improve the video and hope you like the content. Let me know.